Well, I woke up at 3:30 today for no reason. It's still dark out, but we might as well get started. So the goal for today is to install this Pioneer mini split. Really quick, I want to remind everyone, if you're interested in one particular part of the install, you can go to the description, and if you want to say learn how to pull a vacuum, that's going to be indexed and you can go right there. So mini splits are pretty awesome little devices. You can pretty much install them on any inside wall provided you meet two criteria. You have to be able to get the line set from the inside to the outside unit, and you need a strategy for dealing with the condensate that they produce. Okay, so it's going to go on this wall for two reasons. One is it can blow towards my two biggest heating loads in the summer, which is the window by the table and the front door. That's where most of our heat gain is going to come from. The other reason is that this is the only wall that I still have open, and I don't want to put it in here or on the side with the fireplace or on the side with the kitchen. So, and I don't want to put it on the front of the cabin, so this is really the only place to do it. And we also have to make sure that the condensate drains downward. So we have to tilt our level enough to get a slope. You got to be really careful about kinking these. That went surprisingly well. Didn't kink it or anything, thankfully. It's really easy to do, so just be careful. Pulling the line set is by far my least favorite part of this, and this is a particularly difficult one to do. Alright, we got this more or less pulled over. They gave me this leak guard stuff, so I guess I'll use it. Alright, so we got this in. We got the line set in and pulled. Goes from there, goes over there, goes into the power room, and then it comes around, and no way in hell am I trying to get it through those, so we're just going on top because I don't care about this. And it's going to go through the wall down here. My reference point is where that hose comes out. Alright, we just came around back. And so we can see where that hose comes out. Got to seal that today. I want it to come out about 3 feet higher and a foot or so to the left. It looks like I can put these little rubber pads in. This is pretty heavy. Oh man. We need a better strategy. Slider needs to be out further and centered. That could have gone very wrong. Let's get these lines connected, and then I can let it pull a vacuum while I work on connecting the electrical and draining, making the condensate drain outside. Screw in there I don't know about. There we go. Okay. And then a very important step, don't forget to put that on. So this is the flaring tool that I really like. I've not had much luck with these. I haven't used this one personally, someone gave it to me, but I have bought some of the cheaper ones in this style, and the problem that I have with them is they seem to slide. I can't clamp them enough to prevent them from sliding. Maybe I just got a bad one, but anyway, I didn't have much luck with it. I've never had a bad flare with this set. All right. Tighten that up. Screw this in. Okay, and now you back it back out before you undo it. Loosen this. Alright, that looks good. Just be careful. Alright, that looks like a really good flare. Got that off here. Alright, that's good. Alright. One of these sides rips easily. Oh. Alright, I'll do the other line off camera. It's the same process. Alright, that one's flared too. This is the point where a professional would pressure test this system with nitrogen. I don't think most DIYers, including myself, aren't going to do that. If you wanted to, I don't see why you couldn't. Nitrogen is an inert gas. I don't know where you buy it. Probably the same place you buy welding gases, but I don't really know. I asked my friend who works in commercial refrigeration why you need to do a pressure test rather than just pull a vacuum, and his explanation was that with a pressure test it forces everything outwards. A vacuum is going to pull everything inwards. He said if you do have a leak, there's a chance that you can pull foreign objects, dust, debris, maybe copper shavings into the system. So it's better to force everything out first and find a leak rather than find a leak by pulling everything in. We're kind of rolling the dice here. So you got high side, low side. Disregard the high side and make sure this is shut. Then we're going to take this yellow line and we're going to hook it to our vacuum pump. Make sure you get good connections here. If you have a leak, these are all the first place you check. This is the service port. I've already removed the cap. You're going to need one of these. I'm going to put a link to them in the description. They're not expensive, but mini splits take different sizes than normal heating and air equipment. If you're using the micron gauge, this is where I like to put it. If your micron gauge is out of batteries, take it off. I prefer to use a micron gauge. I don't like to fly blind, but you can do this without a micron gauge. You just gotta give it time, and then you really just watch this gauge after you're done pulling the vacuum. Pulling the vacuum, flying blind, go do something else and come back and check this later. Boy, the pump's really giving the inverter a workout. I don't think this inverter's ever worked this hard. So that's where our pipe that we put through the floor goes for our drain. All right, so we got our drain run from there down and out of the house, and they must put this blue dye in the glue now so they can tell the non-plumbers from the real plumbers real easily. All right, so this is run from 3 to 4:30. So now we're going to turn it off. We're going to close this, turn off the pump. All right, so we're going to come back and look at this in a half an hour, and we're going to see where that gauge is. All right, so our vacuum did not hold, which is fine. So it's probably like this or this, but if it's not, I'll just go tighten everything. I'm not going to finish this install today. This video is going to be filmed like a month ago from when you guys actually see it, so I'll just have to come back another trip. I'll get a battery for my micron gauge, and we can make sure we have a good vacuum and finish this the rest of the way. All right, it's 2 weeks later. I'm back. Different shirt, longer beard, otherwise the same. Let's tighten everything up and try this again. Started at 10:45. We'll check on this in a half hour, see where it's at. All right, we're gonna feed our wire through. If you don't have access from the back, you definitely want to do this before you run everything else. I can grab that from the front and put it back in through back here. All right, so we got our wires connected. I always go red, black, white, ground. As long as you do it the same way on the outside unit, it doesn't matter. I just do it like that because I can remember that easily. All right, and I'm just gonna run this through to the outside unit. All right, so I'm eliminating variables, and looks like I don't get confused by this. You can buy this in one hose, or you can buy the gauge set. All right, we got our AC box right here, feeding it through. This is run by a 120 volt 15 amp breaker, so we got 14 gauge wire. All right, so pretty quickly got down to 180 microns. I also had a leak inside. I think I took the fitting off and I put it back on and tightened it. Before that, I could only get to 2500 microns, and it would just sit there and bounce around. It wouldn't go anywhere. Reconnected the connection inside. Pretty quickly got down to 180. It's a strong pump, so we're gonna let it run. Because it actually needs time to burn off that moisture. It can't just hit it and then let it go. You gotta actually make sure that you evaporate everything, so that's what we're gonna do. All right, 55 microns. That's so low I'm actually suspicious. But what we'll do is we're gonna shut this, and it's gonna climb. That's gonna climb up. What we're looking for is for it to hold under, I'm gonna say 500. This is something that people argue about, but as long as it stabilizes under 500, I'm gonna be good with it. 78. We're gonna let that sit for like a half hour. So let's go do something else. We'll come back and check on that. All right, we got our neutral and ground on our neutral ground bus bar. This is my main panel. We're just gonna clip in this breaker right there. 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000. All right, the next step is to open all the valves. You want to put this back on. We're going to put this cap back on, tighten it. Now this is the most nerve-wracking part. There's a valve stem in there. The valve stem serves to hold the refrigerant in long enough for you to get the cap on, but the cap is what really ensures that your system doesn't leak. So I've got gloves on so I can do this kind of as fast as I can without burning myself with the freezing air. But basically a little bit of refrigerant is going to escape. It shouldn't be a big deal. We're just going to go for this. Have my cap in my other hand ready to go. You get it crushed at a quarter of a turn down. Our valve stem probably let out more refrigerant than it should, so we're gonna have to see how this works. We might have to charge this. We got our box here. We got our wire knockout already in there. We're gonna feed this through, and we're also gonna feed this through. Silicone in here. So I don't know if you can't probably read this, but we got line and load. So line is from the box, the breaker box. Load goes to the unit. All right, so this is a 240 volt box. So we're going to disregard this side. We only need this side right here. All right, these wires are going to be for going up to the outdoor unit, so we got to put them through. Wire not that neutral. Wire not that ground. Put this in our load side. We got to get them through this. I'm going to do that off camera because it's going to be frustrating, take me forever. Didn't take me nearly as long as I thought it would. I got to make this liquid tight whip go from here to here with these wires inside it. I'm going to do that off camera because it's probably going to be super frustrating too. All right, so there's one thing I got to explain. This here threads into the liquid tight cord. So you take that apart, thread that in. I haven't threaded it in yet. That's as far as I can hand tighten it. So you got to do that. Then you can put this thing back together. And whatchamacallit, this thing fell all the way down. But you know, you got to have that in that order there. Okay, we got this wired up. You remember our order inside? Red. So we got red, black, white. Then we got the ground from the inside unit right there, bonding it. And then we got ground from our box, neutral from our box, and black from our box. So this is a 120 volt unit. I only had one whip kit, so I didn't use both knockouts. I'm sure there's probably rules against that, but I don't see why. So we're gonna go test it. Let's hope it works. I threw some insulation on where I ripped the liquid line here. So it doesn't look that great, but maybe it'll help it work better. Let's see here. That didn't work. What's going on? Is the inverter on? Oh, all right. Our main breaker was off. Let's turn this back off. It's making noise. I think I just turned it off. Let's hit mode. Cool. Oh, it's doing stuff. Let's see if this thing's spinning. Okay, it's not spinning. I wonder why. Is it over 75 in here? No, it's not. Okay, I hear noise out here. Alright, it's spinning. And we're using 670 watts. I got the thing set to 78 degrees. It's blowing heat. I gotta, maybe I can like tape a thermometer up or something. Guy there. Kind of anticlimactic, and it's not like you can see the heat. All right, maybe this can demonstrate for you guys. It's kind of, it's blowing heat and it's warm. All right, let's turn this off before I kill my battery. Should shut down any second here. All right, well, that's exciting. So let's talk about why I got this particular unit. I really considered 4 options. I considered a 5000 BTU window unit. I've got one of those. It takes 450 watts. The issue is that I have casement windows, and so I would have had to make a custom hole for it, which I could have done, but it would have been a lot of work. And you're spending 450 watts that don't really modulate to only get 5000 BTUs. The second thing I considered was a 24 volt DC unit called the Shark Air. They didn't they stopped making that. They stopped importing it, at least. So I also considered some direct from China DC units. Really didn't want to roll the dice on those, and I considered upgrading my inverter to split phase. That would have opened up a lot of options, and maybe buying one of those 33 seer units. That would have been like over $1,000 just on the inverter. So really I was kind of left with buying a 120 volt single phase unit. And with those, about 22 seer was the highest I could find, which is almost double like a typical window unit. And then the high efficiency window units are, I think those are around 15 seer. They're basically inverter window units. So ultimately, I decided to go with this Pioneer because I've briefly showed you guys a property that I fixed up and I used to rent it as an Airbnb. When I bought that place, the guy that I bought it from had one of these Pioneer units. He didn't know how to install it, but he had hung it on the wall and done the rest of the install. So I basically bought that equipment that you saw me use, and I pulled the vacuum and I installed it the rest of the way. And that thing worked amazing for 5 years until I sold the building. It survived a lot of abuse. I mean, I'd go in there to clean the place, and tenants had set it at like 80 degrees and just left it running the whole time. Like in the winter, they'd max it down as low, or in the summer, they'd max it down as low as it could go. One lady opened every window in the building and ran that thing until the lines froze up, and it still worked. So it just kept working through some of the harshest environments you can imagine. And it was the heat for the entire upstairs of this apartment, which was like 700 square feet. So, and it did great. So I had a good track record with the Pioneer. And then I reached out to Pioneer and asked them if they would send me one, and they said yes. So that was like icing on the cake. So I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited to have AC in the winter. I became an affiliate, so if you guys buy one through my link, I'll get a little kickback, which I would appreciate. All right, so let's talk about the specialized tools. So you got micron gauge. I highly recommend buying that in any scenario. You definitely need the valve adapters. You don't necessarily need a valve pulling tool, so you could use this. You could use this alone. You could use the valve set alone, but you saw kind of what happens there. You don't have the data. You could buy this, like one hose and this, and do it. You definitely need that. So you could get away without buying probably this if you wanted to just buy like this, a hose, and this. That would work as well. Oh yeah, and then obviously your flaring. If you're not going to use the exact size of line set that you order, then you want a flaring tool. I like this one. Haven't had as much luck with those. These are cheaper. I can't remember what this cost. I think it was like over 100. So that's probably why people hesitate to buy those, but it's been good. This is just a pipe cutter. That's the deburring tool, but it comes with all those tools. Okay, and then obviously there's your vacuum pump. This is a 2-stage 5 CFM. So if you're just doing a mini split, you don't have to buy one this powerful. I just bought this because I'm probably going to be installing some regular units at some point, so I want a bigger one, but you don't have to buy quite one this expensive, which I can't remember what this cost. I think it was maybe like $250 or something. So for all the tools all told, the gauge set $200, the flare tool was like $140 or something, vacuum pump I think was $250, the valve core tool you don't have to buy, but I think that was like $40. The little adapters are super cheap. So like I'm a tool guy, so I know people like the Mr. Cool units, but for me, I'd rather have the tools. You know, it comes out about the same to buy a DI unit and just have a bunch of tools. I'd rather have a bunch of tools, but you know, some people prefer the other way, so that's fine too.